This is Dennis from Guitar Lessons Ithaca in The Rhythmic Nature of Jazz by Mike Longo, which is a 4-part video series. He mentions the tune Constantinople by Dizzy Gillespie, which is played on an album called The Gifted Ones with Count Basie on piano and Ray Brown on bass and Mickey Roker on drums. And Longo says it's like a master class in rhythm, but he doesn't really analyze it in depth, so that's what I did. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to analyze the first figure, which is very interesting rhythmically, and I'm going to actually give you some practice files that you can play along with in order to master this rhythm, as well as kind of show you the thinking behind it. And I transcribed the melody, perhaps even too closely, and I'm going to, in order to avoid copyright restrictions, I'm going to play you the MIDI that I used while I transcribed the tune. And here's what the first A section sounds like. So if you're like me, when you listen to that, you just think that, oh, he's just laying back on the beat. But what Mike Longo is saying in his DVD series is that these things are more precise than we think they are. And he uses this Louis Armstrong, sample Louis Armstrong rhythm as an example, where it might be written as a bunch of eighth notes and then someone just writes lay back on top of it. But if you go in deeper, it's actually a precise set of triplets. See, the whole thing with Mike is that he's not meant to put feeling into the music as a musician. It's if you play the rhythms accurately, then you get feeling from the music. It works the other way around. The rhythms themselves are so perfect that you can't help but feel something in that. And then it gets in your blood, and then you just naturally exude these amazing rhythms, which is what we're doing today. We're going to analyze this rhythm from Dizzy, and we're going to let you practice it. Here's the Louis Armstrong example. First, as written, when someone would just write lay back with eighth notes, and then second, if they wrote it in triplets accurately. And by the way, that just so happens to be one of the, quote, 12 claves. If you take the original Afro-Cuban clave and you move it over by 12 different eighth notes, that's one of them. I did several other videos on this. If you want to watch it, I'll put it in the description. But I'm just real quick, I'm going to scat it. 1, 2, 3, 4, ga, da, ki, da, da, ga, da, ki, da, da, ga, da, ki, da, da. For today, though, we're only going to be focusing on the first 2 bars and the rhythm that's played there. Notice that there's only 2 notes that fall on a downbeat. And I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want to have to try and sight read that. So what I did, like I always do for complicated rhythms, is go to my old friend konnakol, the South Indian language of rhythm. It's taka for 2, takita for 3, takadimi for 4. Most complicated rhythms can be broken down in 2 and 3, and that's what we see here. Takita, takita, tak, tak, takita, 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 tak, 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 tak. Takita, takita, tak, tak, takita, 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 tak, 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 tak. Da, 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 takita, da, 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 tak, 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 tak. Da, 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 takita, da, 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 tak, 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 tak. So let me just explain what this is all about. When you divide each beat into 16th note triplets, that's takita, 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 da, like that. But there's 2 ways to do it. You could either do it like I did it here, where I divided just like I just scattered it, 2 sets of takita. Or in some cases, you might want to do taka, taka, taka. Now in this case, it says something different. I'll explain that in a minute. If it's just eighth notes, right, you might go takita, takita, da, 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 da. If it's eighth note triplets, then you might go daga, 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 like daga, 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 da, 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 da. And then if it's 16th notes, you might do taka, 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 but every syllable is a beat. So daga, 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 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, like that. So in this particular case, it's like if you took this third beat and you did like 3 and right? So it's eighth note triplets. Dizzy's phrase is starting here on the of 3. And then these are actually eighth notes, but they're all displaced, right? They're not on the 1 and they're not on the end. Until you get to here, in which case there's a bunch of 16. Well, this is still the same amount of time, these 3. And then you still have, eighth note values all the way through here. But everything's displaced, of course. Until you get to here, then it's 16th note triplets, 4 of them. And then that's the end of the bar. That's the main figure we're going to look at today. So how this is going to work is I gave you a play along at 50 beats a minute, then 60, 70, 80, 90, and then 100, and then the final tempo of Constantinople is 104. I gave you only that rhythmic figure, even though Dizzy plays variations on it in the head, as you would. I decided that it'd be more effective to just have you nail the opening rhythm and have it repeat exactly. And I only gave you 8 bars worth of it on the practice track, even though it's a 12-bar form. So you do it in F minor for 4 bars, and then B flat for 2 bars, and then F minor for 2 bars, as you would in the first 8 bars of a blues. And then the turnaround is just up to you. Just free form that. Play any improv you want. And I demonstrate what I'm talking about. This is confusing. I demonstrate it before I give you the practice file at the very end. I show you a demonstration of doing that. And so I also want to explain, I gave you the notes the very first time around on bar 1 of each cycle, of each 12-bar cycle. I gave you the actual notes, but after that it just goes to the rhythmic hits, because I think it's easier to tell if you're playing it accurately if you're just hearing the rhythmic hits that's not an actual note with a duration and a pitch, if that makes any sense. In other words, you could hear the flams more easily. All right, so I hope that some of you may find this interesting, and if you do the practice exercises and you find it valuable, please let me know. I also have a couple of courses on rhythm that you may find interesting and valuable. The first is called the Rhythm Generator, where you can generate an infinite variety of rhythms in 4/4. It's just a creative tool, basically, to help you generate rhythms. And the other one is called Play Odd Times. If you want to learn how to play in odd meters more easily, you do not have to read music or do higher math, but we do use konnakol in that course. And the third one is nothing to do with rhythm. It has to do with modes. It's 82 exotic and common modes called For Music Geeks Only. And the links are all in the description, and I've shared them in this video as well. So I hope you enjoy. Good luck.